Hello there, this is William Cunningham, aka Reggie, of myhopeinmarriage.com. Alright, hello. My Hope in Marriage is dedicated to presenting or providing resources that you can use to help build a happy marriage. Okay, that's the goal, is to build a happy marriage, for you to build a happy marriage. Because there's a lot of things that go on in a marriage that you're not really prepared for. We're not really being prepared for. I wasn't. You know, there's no school you go to for marriage. You just dump two people together saying I do and expect to be, happy ever after and all that. It doesn't, a lot of times it doesn't work that way. So I hope to build or provide resources, information that you can use to build a happy marriage. All right? Okay, now today we're going to talk about the fact that your ignorance may be destroying your marriage. Your ignorance may be destroying your marriage. Let me explain. You get married, a lot of people get married, and they get caught up in the daily grind. Go to work, go to school, maintain the house or apartment or wherever you live. If you have kids, you're going to raise the kids. And you get caught up in these different things. And one thing you neglect, which is extremely important, and one thing you should not neglect, is the pursuit of each other. Getting to know each other. The husband, you need to get to know your spouse. I mean, your wife. And wifey, you need to get to know your husband. You don't know everything about this guy. Even if you were dating for a long time. When I got married 30 years ago, over 30 years ago. All right. I got married in the dinosaur days in 1988. Wow, a 19 is in front of there. Anyway, but when I got married, and I noticed quickly that my wife was not the same person that I thought she was. And it wasn't that necessarily that she changed, it was that I never really got to know her because we met in college. So I got to know the student Carla, not the real Carla. And likewise, she probably noticed the same thing with me because we met in college, even though I was out for a couple of years before she got married. She was in college for one more year after I got out. So we spent 1 year outside of college together, but that time was spent preparing for the marriage, getting a new home, so forth and so on. So we never really got to know each other personally until after the wedding day. All right, and that was important. And I noticed some issues right away, but I had a mentality to go educate myself. So I began to educate myself about marriage and so forth and so on. And a lot of that information I'm presenting to you. So you need to get to know your spouse. Don't get caught up in the daily grind. Don't get caught up in, going to work and taking care of business, and you don't spend the time to get to know your spouse. Have a date night once a week, twice a week, whatever. Spend time together talking on the deck or just taking a walk in a park and talking about things. Not just, shooting the breeze, but really talk about substantial things, like your hopes and your dreams, and if there's any issues, if the way you pick your feet annoy me. No, really. Well, you really should get to know your spouse because it's very, very important. Because if you don't get to know your spouse, that ignorance can be a foundation for problems in the marriage that you don't even realize. And I give a couple of examples in the article that accompanies this video. Actually, this video accompanies the article, where there are certain things that your spouse is doing that you don't really understand because you don't really get to know your spouse. And you're doing things, even trying to do things for your spouse, not realizing that what you're doing may have a completely different meaning to your husband or to your wife. But unless you get to know that person, you don't know. You see what I'm saying? You keep giving your wife roses and she just doesn't seem to appreciate it. You're like, I give her roses. Women like roses. I mean, she doesn't seem to care. And not realizing or finding out that she had a very, very bad experience that involved roses. And those roses may bring it up to her, bring it up to the forefront of her memory. So you want to learn things like that. Because if you don't, what'll happen, you keep giving her roses and you're getting offended because she doesn't seem to appreciate it. And then she might respond to your offense because you're going to start treating her in certain ways. And you got this back and forth resentment that can go on and grow for years, not knowing that if you had just found out why she doesn't seem to like roses, you would have known from the beginning. Honey, I give you roses, you don't seem to appreciate it. Well, I had a really bad experience with roses, and when I see roses, now you would have known, right? But instead, you didn't find these things out, and it just perpetuated and grew into something very, very bad for the marriage, all right? So the bottom line is get to know your spouse personally. Do a date night, have discussions, whatever the case may be. Spend time talking to each other, spending time with each other, of course having sex with each other. You've got to do that. Very, very, very important, okay? Because your marriage really depends on it. I mean, it makes sense. You have two people getting married. Shouldn't you know each other? All right. Now, I know there are some cultures that have arranged marriage, and you say, well, I can't get to know my spouse before, so what am I doomed? No. For one thing, I have an Indian friend who, his marriage was arranged. I think he met his wife like 45 minutes before they got married. Wow. But in that culture, in his culture, it wasn't that they just threw two people together. The families actually sought out the best match. So, they did some of that work. But still, even after that, you have to have the mindset, I got to get to know her. All right? Give her the benefit of the doubt. Don't think negatively of what she does or what he does, what your spouse does. Think positively. Give them the benefit of the doubt that they're trying to make things right. Or if you just think they're trying to make things bad, I don't care, then you're going to mess it up. All right? So get to know your spouse. Spend time with your spouse, talking to your spouse. Get to know that person's heart. Get to know their passions, their dreams, right? Their goals. What really turns them on, and so forth and so on. All right? Get to know your spouse because your marriage depends on it. What you don't know can help destroy your marriage.